Sometimes it feels like we're all born with an invisible to-do list handed to us by our families. Graduate by this age, get a respectable job, earn this much money, marry at this time, have kids, buy a house, and live happily ever after, right? But let me ask you, whose script are you really living? Because family pressure and expectations can feel like you're carrying the weight of the entire world on your shoulders. Your parents want you to be safe, society wants you to look successful, relatives want you to fit into their definition of normal. And you just want to breathe. Here's the truth nobody tells you. Family expectations often come from love, but sometimes love can look like control. Your mom says, "Beta, Dr. Bano," or "Son, be an engineer." Not because she hates your dream of becoming a filmmaker, but because in her world, security equals survival. They push you not always to limit you, but to protect you. But here's where the conflict begins. What protects them may suffocate you. And that's the battle many of us fight every single day. Do I chase my dreams, or do I fulfill their dreams? Do I disappoint them, or do I disappoint myself? Think about it like this. Imagine playing a video game where your parents are holding the controller. You're the character, but they're pressing the buttons. Sure, you'll move forward, but it's not really your journey, is it? Family pressure is like that. It can guide you, but if you let it control you, you'll end up in places you never wanted to be. And here's the fun part, every family has that one cousin, right? The perfect child, top grades, perfect career, married on time, kids already in school, house bought, car shining in the driveway. And then there's you, who's still trying to figure out how to cook noodles without burning the pan. It's funny, but it's also painful. Because comparison becomes another form of pressure. You're not just carrying your parents' expectations, but also the shadow of someone else's achievements. And if you're not careful, you'll spend your whole life chasing someone else's highlight reel while forgetting your own story. But let me tell you something important. Your worth is not defined by how well you tick off society's checklist. Your worth is in how true you are to yourself. Because at the end of the day, family pressure is real, expectations are heavy, but your life is yours. And the biggest responsibility you have is not to live the life others planned for you, but to create the life that sets your soul on fire. Understand where pressure comes from. Family pressure isn't always about controlling you, even though it feels that way most of the time. At its core, it usually comes from a place of love, fear, and protection. Parents don't wake up thinking, "How do I ruin my child's life today?" No, they wake up thinking, "How do I make sure my child never suffers the way I did?" Think about your mom or dad for a second. They grew up in a world where survival meant stability. A government job, a degree in medicine or engineering, a respectable career. That was their golden ticket out of poverty, struggle, or shame. So when they push you toward those paths, they're not trying to kill your dreams. They're trying to shield you with the only tools they know. It's almost like they're handing you an umbrella on a sunny day. You're looking around like, "Why do I need this? The sky is clear." But in their memory, storms came out of nowhere. They believe that without that umbrella, without stability, a degree, a safe job, you'll get drenched in failures. And here's the funny part, sometimes their fears don't even belong to you. They belong to them. If your father once faced humiliation for not having money, he'll pressure you into chasing financial security, even if your soul burns for something else. If your mother was judged for not following tradition, she'll push you to fit in, not because you're weak, but because she doesn't want you to taste the pain she once swallowed. Family pressure is like a hand-me-down sweater. They give it to you because it kept them warm once, but on you, it might feel itchy, too tight, or just not your style. And yet, out of respect, you wear it, even if it makes you uncomfortable. But here's what's interesting. The moment you realize pressure comes from fear, not from a lack of love, your perspective changes. Instead of seeing your parents as enemies trying to chain you, you see them as people who are scared for you. They're not villains, they're just humans carrying their own scars, trying desperately to protect you from invisible battles. Different generations, different worlds. One of the biggest reasons family pressure feels so heavy is because we forget this simple truth: our parents grew up in a completely different world than the one we're living in today. For them, life was about survival. For us, it's about exploration. Think about it. 30 or 40 years ago, if you became a doctor, an engineer, or a government officer, you were automatically respected. You didn't even need to introduce yourself. Your job title was your identity. And let's be real, back then, there were no YouTubers, no influencers, no app developers, no gamers making six figures sitting at home. If someone said, "I want to be a content creator," in the 1980s, people would have laughed and asked, "Content? What's that? Is it edible?" But today, the game has changed. A kid in his bedroom can create a startup that changes the world. An artist can paint something on TikTok and sell it for thousands. A gamer can earn more than a banker. Opportunities are everywhere, yet many families still see the world through the old lens. And here's the fun part: try explaining this new reality to them. You say, "Dad, I want to be a digital marketer." He frowns and says, "Beta, is that even a real job? Can you feed a family with Wi-Fi?" Or you tell your mom, "I want to travel and vlog." And she replies, "You mean you'll roam around with a camera instead of working in an office?" It's not that they don't love you. It's that their definition of security was written in a time where risks were dangerous, not opportunities. They see stability as the only road to survival, while you see creativity as the road to freedom. So what happens? Clash, frustration, arguments. You feel misunderstood. They feel disrespected. But deep down, it's not really about you vs them. It's about yesterday's world trying to control today's dreams. Imagine this: you're playing a new video game with advanced graphics, and your dad walks in trying to play it with rules from Pac-Man. Of course, it won't make sense. The strategies that worked for them won't always work for you, because you're not living in their time. You're living in yours. And once you see that gap, once you understand that the pressure isn't personal, it's generational, it shifts something inside you. You stop thinking, "They're trying to ruin my life," and start realizing, "They're speaking a language of the past, while I'm trying to live in the future." And the question becomes, how do you bridge those two worlds without losing yourself in the process? You're not a robot with a checklist. Have you ever noticed how society treats life like a giant checklist? Graduate by 22, get a job by 24, get married by 26, buy a house by 30, have kids by 32, retire at 60. It's like everyone is born with the same manual for success printed in invisible ink. And if you dare to miss a step or check a box late, people start whispering, "What's wrong with him? What's wrong with her?" But let me ask you, are we robots built to tick boxes? Or are we humans here to live stories? Because if life was only about following that checklist, then everyone who did it right should be happy, right? But look around. There are people who followed every single box perfectly, and they're still empty inside. Why? Because they lived someone else's script, not their own. Here's the funny part: imagine telling Shakespeare, "Sir, before writing plays, please complete your MBA by 25. Or telling Steve Jobs, "Forget about Apple, beta, focus on a safe government job." Or telling Picasso, "Stop painting, go be an accountant. That's more stable." The world would have lost masterpieces, inventions, and revolutions, all in the name of checking the right boxes. Family expectations often come from this illusion that life is a straight line, a step-by-step ladder. But the truth is, life is more like jazz music. It flows, it improvises, it changes tempo. Sometimes you take longer pauses, sometimes you skip steps, sometimes you invent your own rhythm, and that's okay. But when families pile pressure, it feels like you're being treated as a robot. By this age, do this. By that age, achieve that. And when you fall behind, they act like your system is malfunctioning. But you're not malfunctioning. You're just moving at the speed of your own destiny. Think about it. What's the point of finishing the checklist if you never feel alive while doing it? What's the point of rushing into marriage if you're not ready? What's the point of buying a house if you can't call it a home? What's the point of earning money if you're miserable earning it? You're not a robot designed to impress society with blinking green lights. You're a human being designed to live, to fail, to laugh, to cry, to build, to rebuild, to wander, and to eventually create a story worth telling. And once you see through that checklist illusion, you begin to realize something powerful. Success is not about ticking every box on society's paper. The weight of comparison, every family has that one shining star. The cousin, the sibling, or the neighbor's kid who seems to have it all figured out. Top grades, perfect career, married on time. Kids already taking piano lessons, house bought, car parked outside shining like a showroom model. And then there's you, still figuring out what to eat for dinner, struggling to remember if you paid the electricity bill, and maybe even burning Maggi noodles while cooking. It's funny, but let's be honest, it hurts too, because comparison turns family gatherings into silent competitions. You don't hear, "How are you?" anymore. You hear, "Look at your cousin. When will you catch up?" It's like your entire existence is measured on a scoreboard you never agreed to play on. Here's the thing: comparison is the heaviest weight you can carry, because it makes you forget your own path. Instead of asking, "What do I want in life?" you start asking, "Am I better than them yet?" And the cruel truth is, no matter how much you achieve, there will always be someone ahead. Someone richer, smarter, fitter, more successful. But here's the twist. What if you're not even supposed to run the same race as them? Imagine comparing a fish to a bird. One swims, the other flies. If the fish spends its whole life feeling worthless because it can't fly, it forgets the ocean it was born to rule. That's exactly what comparison does. It blinds you from your own ocean while you're busy staring at someone else's sky. And families, without realizing it, feed this pressure. They say, "Look at your brother, he already has a stable job." Or, "Look at your cousin, she's married and has 2 kids now." But what they don't realize is, every story has its own timing, its own struggles, its own lessons. Just because someone blooms early doesn't mean your flower won't bloom at all. Here's something interesting: the people you're compared to. They might be secretly comparing themselves to you. Maybe they have money but envy your freedom. Maybe they have stability but crave your creativity. Maybe they look perfect outside but feel trapped inside. Comparison hides the truth on both sides. The real weight isn't in failing to meet your family's expectations. The real weight is believing that your life has less meaning, just because it doesn't look like somebody else's highlight reel. And the moment you let go of that toxic comparison, you begin to breathe lighter, think clearer, and live truer. Because you were never born to be a duplicate of anyone else's story. Pressure can build diamonds or break souls. You've probably heard that famous line, "Pressure makes diamonds." And yes, it's true. Diamonds are formed under extreme pressure. But here's the part no one talks about: the same pressure that creates diamonds can also crush stones into dust. Family pressure works the same way. For some people, it pushes them to achieve things they never thought possible. It's like that extra push in the gym when your trainer yells, "One more rep." And somehow, you lift more weight than you imagined. Some kids take pressure as motivation and rise like rockets. But for others, pressure doesn't inspire. It suffocates. Imagine someone constantly pressing down on your shoulders. At first, you can stand tall. But slowly, your knees shake, your back bends, and eventually, you collapse. That's what happens when pressure becomes too much. Instead of building you, it breaks you. And families rarely see the breaking part. They see the report card, the degree, the job title. But they don't see the late nights where their child cried quietly into a pillow. They don't see the panic attacks before an exam. They don't see the way a smile hides the exhaustion. To them, the results look like diamonds. To the child, it feels like being crushed into dust. Think about it. How many students top their classes but lose their mental health? How many kids get the dream job, but secretly feel empty inside? How many people get married under pressure, only to realize they're living someone else's life? Pressure can produce achievements on the outside while silently destroying peace on the inside. Here's something interesting: pressure is not always bad. Some pressure is necessary. It teaches responsibility, discipline, focus. But the line between healthy pressure and toxic pressure is thin. One encourages growth, the other kills passion. It's like watering a plant. A little water helps it grow. Too much water drowns it. Family pressure is the same. Balanced, it can help. Excessive, it suffocates. And the hardest part, families often don't realize when they've crossed that line. Because in their mind, they're shaping you into a diamond. But in your heart, you might just be whispering, "Please, I don't want to break." Redefining success on your own terms. Let's be real. One of the biggest sources of family pressure comes from their definition of success. For many families, success is a checklist: get good grades, secure a stable job, get married by a socially acceptable age, buy a house, have kids, and keep the cycle going. It's like life is supposed to be a board game. And if you don't land on the right squares at the right time, you're losing. But here's the truth. Success is not one size fits all. Imagine if the world told Steve Jobs, "Hey, forget this Apple thing, just get a government job and settle down." Or if Oprah had listened when people said, You're not fit for television. The world would have missed out on greatness simply because someone tried to shrink success into a tiny little box. Now, think about your own life. What if your definition of success is different? What if, instead of chasing money, your dream is to chase art, to travel, to write, to build something new? Does that mean you're failing? Of course not. It just means you're playing a different game. Here's the interesting thing: society claps the loudest for visible success. The degree, the salary, the house. But true success is often invisible. It's peace of mind. It's waking up excited for your day instead of dreading it. It's the courage to say no when everyone expects you to say yes. And let's add a little fun here. Imagine two people at a party. One pulls up in a luxury car but looks stressed, checking emails all night. The other shows up in a simple car, laughing, dancing, actually enjoying the evening. Now tell me, who's more successful in that moment? The one with the fancy car, or the one with the free soul? When you redefine success on your own terms, you take the power back. You stop asking, will my family approve? And start asking, will I feel proud of this life when I'm 80 years old? Because at the end of the day, your family might celebrate your achievements for a week, but you're the one who has to live with your choices for a lifetime. And here's a twist most people don't realize. When you truly succeed on your own terms, even the same family that once doubted you eventually respects you. Why? Because nothing speaks louder than a life lived with passion and confidence. Communication, the bridge between you and your family. Here's a secret that many people miss. A lot of family pressure doesn't come from bad intentions. It comes from bad communication. Families aren't always villains. Sometimes they're just speaking a different language. Think about it. Your parents might say, "We want you to become a doctor." What they really mean is, "We want you to have a secure future." But what you hear is, "They don't trust my dreams, they only care about status." On the flip side, when you say, "I want to be an artist," they might hear, "I want to throw my life away and starve in the name of creativity." See the gap? It's not always about love. It's about translation. And the bridge between those two worlds is communication. Here's a little funny truth: most of us argue with our families the way we argue with a Wi-Fi router. We shout, we get frustrated, we restart the connection. But we don't actually fix the signal. Communication isn't about raising your voice, it's about raising your clarity. Sometimes all it takes is sitting down and saying, "I understand why you want security for me. But here's what gives me life. Here's what I'm willing to work hard for. And here's how I plan to make it work." When families see effort plus clarity, they often soften. Because deep down, parents don't just want success, they want safety. If you can show them a path where your dreams and safety meet, suddenly the pressure turns into support. And here's the interesting part: communication is not just about convincing them. It's also about listening. Maybe your parents grew up in scarcity. Maybe they faced struggles you'll never fully understand. When they push you, sometimes it's not pride. It's fear. Fear that you'll suffer the same way they did. When you understand their fear, you stop seeing them as enemies of your freedom and start seeing them as humans carrying their own scars. Does that mean every conversation will magically fix everything? No. Sometimes they'll still resist. Sometimes they'll still criticize. But every time you choose conversation over silence, you plant a seed. And over time, even the hardest hearts can shift when they realize, this child is not rebelling. This child is simply being honest. Because silence creates distance. But communication builds bridges. Choosing your own path with courage. At some point, every person reaches that crossroads in life. One road is safe, predictable, approved by the family. The other road is uncertain, risky, but it's where your heart pulls you. And in that moment, courage becomes the deciding factor. Because let's be real, choosing your own path is not easy. It sounds glamorous in motivational quotes, but in real life, it's messy. It means late night doubts, awkward family dinners, relatives whispering, "He's making a mistake," or "She's wasting her time." It means facing rejection, fear, and sometimes walking alone when everyone else takes the opposite direction. But here's the beauty: the greatest stories in history were never written by people who played it safe. Think about it. If J.K. Rowling had listened to rejection letters, Harry Potter wouldn't exist. If Elon Musk had stayed in a secure job, there'd be no SpaceX or Tesla. If Malala had stayed silent, millions of girls wouldn't have the right to education today. Every person who changed the world had one thing in common: they chose courage over comfort. And maybe your path won't be world famous. Maybe it's quieter. Maybe your courage is choosing art over accounting. Maybe it's saying no to an arranged marriage until you're ready. Maybe it's moving to a new city where nobody knows you, just to discover yourself. Courage doesn't have to be loud. Sometimes it's just the whisper inside you saying, I deserve to live my truth. Here's something interesting. When you choose your own path, people often doubt you at first. They'll laugh, criticize, gossip. But the moment you succeed even a little, suddenly the same people start saying, we always knew you had it in you. It's almost funny how quickly doubt can turn into pride when courage starts showing results. But courage isn't about proving them wrong. It's about proving yourself right. It's about waking up one day, looking in the mirror, and saying, this life is mine. Not borrowed, not forced, not lived for others. Mine. And the truth is, no matter how much family pressure you face, no matter how heavy the expectations, the world respects those who dare to walk their own road. Because deep down, everyone wishes they had that same courage. Choosing your own path isn't rebellion, it's responsibility. Responsibility for your happiness, your growth, your destiny. And once you take that step, even if it's shaky, even if it's uncertain, you realize the scariest thing wasn't walking your own path. The scariest thing was almost living a life that never belonged to you. So maybe your family has expectations. Maybe the pressure feels like a mountain on your shoulders. But remember this, mountains are not just obstacles. They're also places where the strongest climbers are born. Your journey doesn't have to look like your brothers, your cousins, or your neighbors. It has to look like yours. Because at the end of the day, when the lights go off and you're lying in bed, it won't be their voices you hear. It'll be your own. And that voice will either whisper, I lived for others, or it will roar, I lived for me. A family love is real, but so is your individuality. Pressure is real, but so is your strength. And expectations, they can either chain you, or they can push you to rise higher than anyone ever imagined. So walk your path. Walk it with courage, with clarity, with conviction. And when you finally look back years from now, you'll realize something powerful. You didn't just survive family pressure. You transformed it into the fuel that built your destiny. Because in the end, success isn't about living the life they planned for you. It's about living the life you were born to create.